Hello, everybody. So, the topic I want to talk about today is something that I've had on my mind for a long time and I keep putting it off. But I said, you know what? I'm going to make a video. And today's topic is we do not need another salon suite. We do not need another hair salon. And hear me out. I'm going to break it down for you guys. So, I don't have any notes. I'm going to do this off the top of my mind and hopefully I get everything in. If I don't, I'll do a part two. But pretty much, here's what I have to say about this topic. So, we don't need another salon suite building. We don't need any more salon suites. I'm speaking from a stylist perspective, but clients, if you have anything to say in the comments, please let me know how you guys feel about this. I currently think that the industry has always been very much so oversaturated, and I think salon suites is saturating it even more. Salon suites, I think, are great for people who are maybe seasoned professionals and have been in the industry for a long time and have a solid clientele. But if you're somebody new right out of cosmetology school or somebody new just getting your experience in the field, I really don't think a salon suite is the setting for you. So let's go over some of the reasons why. First of all, the cost of salon suites, they can be very pricey, especially depending on where you're located. I always tell you guys I'm located in Massachusetts, Boston, Massachusetts, and the price of suites are it's very much so not affordable. The suite rent is comparable to housing prices here or rental prices here in Massachusetts. So, to give an example, somebody could be renting a window suite. So, window suites are more costly than inner suites, ones that don't have a window. So, you can be renting a window suite and it can run you anywhere from $600 to $700 a week, okay, per week, not monthly. That is how much you pay per week. So do the math and you see how much that costs. If you're renting something that doesn't have a window, maybe you can be paying anywhere from $400 to $500 plus per week. So the cost is one thing. Another thing is I feel like some suites are not really built with hairstylists in mind. We have to keep in mind a lot of these people who own these suite buildings and these suite concepts, they tend to be just business people and they are in it for the money. And honestly, I think that's okay because I do think it is a great way to profit if you're in it for the business. But the issue with that is that they don't necessarily always have a hairstylist mindset. So I feel like they think some things through, but maybe they should consult more with hairstylists to see exactly what we want and need. One prime example is the fact that these salon suites are on the smaller side. If you're a stylist who doesn't require a lot of equipment or machinery, maybe it might not be as big of a deal for you. But if you're somebody who specializes in hair care treatments and you have a steamer and you need a dryer and those sorts of things, the space really does get tight. And because the space is so tight, it makes it challenging to take more than one client at a time. And I know that when they create these concepts, maybe the mindset is you like having a one-on-one experience with your client. That can work when you're working with certain textures, but when you're working with black textures or natural hair, or even if you're doing a color, it's not always about race, but there's some services like you might be doing a color and while the client is processing, technically you should be able to take another client because of the size of the suite, sometimes that's just not possible. I see some stylists that do make it work and they do cram people in, but it can get tight and it can get uncomfortable. So that's something to consider. And then if sometimes the suites are even too small to say add an assistant in. So like if you want to take another client or have an assistant helping you to move your day along, if you're in a smaller suite setting, that's challenging to do, which of course can cut into your profit, and that cuts into you being able to um, help with expenses as far as paying for your suite. Because maybe if it's just you as an individual, one person, maybe you can do 3 to 5, maybe 6 people per day, depending on your services. if you had an assistant, maybe you could do up to 10 people a day, but because the space doesn't really necessarily permit you to have an assistant or to double book all the time, it really limits how much you can make, right? So that is something that I want people to consider. Another thing, if you're somebody who's fresh out of cosmetology school or still in training, if you're working in a suite setting, you're essentially working by yourself. And a lot of being a hairstylist comes through the practical work, but also having people around you with more experience and more knowledge that's able to teach you, correct you, give you tips, give you tricks, and ultimately help you become a better hairstylist. If you're working by yourself, there's really no standard to live up to. There's really no true inspiration unless you're an individual who's going to go out and take classes and be very active on your own. So you can take classes, you can watch YouTube videos, you can also follow people on social media who maybe you aspire to be like, and that can be of help. But there's nothing like having somebody um present with you to correct you and give you tips. And I know me personally, for the first few years of my career, there was a lot that I needed to learn, and I just don't see how I would have known as much as I know now without having somebody with at a higher level being able to teach me what I needed to know and ultimately to give me that foundation. So that's another reason why I think new stylists should really think strongly before just entering a suite. Secondly, a lot of suites are not necessarily walk-in friendly. They say walk-ins, like if you look online, it says yes, stylists take walk-ins, but I will tell you from firsthand experience, it's not the most walk in the most welcoming to walk-ins. It's kind of tricky for somebody to walk in. They would have to be already following you and knowing who you are, and then like the door is locked on the building, so it's kind of tricky. It's like, how do you walk into a locked building? So that can be a little bit contradicting. um, and so those are some of the main points as far as just like being a newer stylist in a suite setting. Oh yes, and of course, so if you don't have a established clientele, so maybe if you're somebody new and you don't necessarily have a solid clientele, you can't really rely on walk-ins because it's not always walk-in friendly. So how do you build your clientele? Now, if you're somebody who is very strong on social media, advertising, handing out business cards, doing promotions, yes, you can build your clientele, but you have to keep in mind while you are building this clientele, you still have to pay that weekly rent. As I said earlier, here in my city, it can range anywhere from $400 to $700, and maybe it could be a little less or a little more, just depending, you know. So these are all things to consider and to think about. So I noticed too, with me working in the suite setting for about 2.5 years, the turnover rate is very, very high because some people, they come in thinking they can do it, and then reality starts to kick in, and then they just realize they can't. So I do notice it's a constant turnover. So if you're somebody who's in the suite setting and you're comfortable in it and you like to be familiar with your surroundings and knowing the people who work around you, there are some people who stay, but it's a high turnover. So it's like every month there can be something new, and that's just the realities of things. So another part, I feel like, so say if you are somebody who is a seasoned and an established stylist, so you may be able to afford the rent, but you have to remember, um, being a hairstylist is one thing and running a business is another thing. And I think that as hairstylists, we have been almost like tricked and cons into thinking that we all have to have our own businesses. The beauty industry has such an individualized mindset. And I think that is a lot of businesses, just in general, but especially with hairstylists, I think it's been more of an ongoing thing with us, even from back before. It's like people think, oh, you're a hairstylist, open a hair salon. And now with the suites, it's like, oh, you're a hairstylist, open a suite. And I would like to say that I don't think that everybody should have a suite. I don't think everybody should have a hair salon. I think that some people are really great hairstylists. They're very knowledgeable. They're great in their craft. but that doesn't necessarily mean that you need to own a business, right? So you have to think about the operational costs. So other than the rent, you have to make sure you can cover the cost of products, cover the cost of having refreshments for your clients, staying up to date. Now we're talking about running a business. Do you have a spreadsheet, or do you have a way to categorize and make sure you're keeping track of your finances? Do you have a website set up, an email list, marketing? Because you're running a business, right? So it's like, if you want to be able to run a business professionally and make sure that you're constantly have a flow of new clients coming in and make sure that you're constantly booked and busy, you can't forget about the business side of things. So those are some of the main points that I would like to say. And then I'll kind of wrap that up with also saying that if you think about the cost of what it takes to open us and run a salon suite, and based on the numbers I told you, I think that more stylists would be better off if we didn't have such an individualized mindset. You would be better off partnering up with somebody, maybe somebody you meet within a suite setting. Even if they're not a hairstylist, it's the beauty industry, so they can do other things such as maybe esthetician, or somebody who does makeup artistry or lashes. You would actually be better up partnering with somebody. By the time you each pay your weekly rent for a suite, you can have a storefront business. And then, of course, two minds are better than one. And I feel like with two people, as long as you can get along with and agree with each other, you can have a very successful business, right? So that's something else I want to say as well. So I think that we need to really think about focusing on traditional salons. I think that as hairstylists, we have to be open and honest with ourselves and realize if we are one of those people who's talented enough or who has the resources, and I say talent very lightly because it's not always about talent, but are you somebody who's consistent, maybe type A personality, you like numbers, you like doing books, and you also have a love for doing hair, then maybe you're a candidate or somebody who can open up the hair salon, and maybe you have somewhat of a business mindset. You have the skills of being a hairstylist, and maybe you're resourceful and you can hire management and a team that you need to help you successfully run a salon. So if you think about it, most successful hair salons are not ran by just one person. It usually takes a team. So it comes to the point of, do you want to just be in business to say you're in business, or do you want to have a successful business that flourishes and profits and also benefits other people and is impactful to your clients and to your community, right? So I think that, with that being said, most times in a actual salon is where you get those things. Is where you want to be impactful. You want to be a place, especially with uh, black women and black hair, because most of my clients are natural. So I am going to talk about black women and black hair. I think about back when I had my salon and how much people really enjoyed coming in because of the community feeling and because of being able to talk to other like-minded people. And then I would have pop-ups and host like yoga and have events, and there's just all these things that you can do with a traditional salon that is just challenging to do with a suite. So just some things to think about, and I may do a part two to this. Maybe I'll watch this back and then come up with some more points that I want to talk a little bit deeper about. But that is just a gist of why I think that we do not need another salon suite. We don't need another salon suite building. As hairstylists and individuals, be honest with yourself. Are you somebody that really should be running a business? Or maybe you would be a better team player, and then you would be better off finding a great salon to work in. And one last point, I know many people do like the suite because of the one-on-one setting. The one-on-one setting is nice, but if, as clients, they like the one-on-one settings, now to the clients, you have to realize that if you want to go somewhere, be one-on-one and have it be just your appointment, then the cost of that might be a little higher. So you may have to end up paying more because you're visiting a stylist in a salon suite. And then to the stylist, as far as the one-on-one experience, if you have the proper assistance and team and structure in a salon setting, you can still service your client where you give them almost close enough to a one-on-one experience where when you're spending your time on them, maybe the assistant is doing something with someone else. So I think that the things that we may admire and highlight from a suite setting can very much so be done in a traditional salon setting. So let me know if this video was helpful. Let me know if you guys want a part two and if I should talk more about this topic. And if you listened all the way through, thank you so much. Have a blessed day.